When I bought 30 acres of vacant land, I expected trees, grass, maybe an old fence. But the moment I arrived, my jaw dropped. There were houses, streets, sidewalks, mailboxes, a playground, a clubhouse, an entire HOA community built right on my land. And before I could even process it, a woman came storming toward me with 2 HOA security guards like she owned the world. "Hey! This is private HOA property. You're trespassing," she screamed. But here's the part she didn't know. The entire neighborhood she was defending, every house, every road, every fence, was sitting on my land. I had just bought all of it. Legally. And what happened after she tried to kick me off my own property? Yeah, she had absolutely no idea what was coming next. So before we continue, drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you believe in justice over power, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel stands for ordinary people standing up to corrupt HOAs and entitled Karen behavior. Alright, let's get back to the story. When that piece of land popped up for sale, it looked like the simplest deal in the world. No buildings. No utilities. No lanes. No activity. Just 30 acres of open, untouched land listed as vacant rural property. The price was surprisingly good, not cheap enough to look suspicious, but low enough that it felt like the perfect investment. A place I could develop slowly, maybe build a small cabin, maybe sell a portion later. A long-term plan. Everything checked out. The county records showed clean ownership history. No construction permits. No HOA filings. No subdivision maps. No complaints or disputes. It was the kind of land you look at and say, yeah, this is easy money. I signed the papers with confidence. The deed transferred. Taxes updated. Payment cleared. And when the county sent me the official document showing I was the new and only legal owner, I remember thinking, this might be one of the smartest things I've ever done. What I didn't know, what I couldn't know, was that for the last 12 years, someone else had been using my land like their personal kingdom. Building streets. Selling homes. Running a full HOA. My land wasn't vacant anymore, it was the foundation of an entire community that didn't even know I existed. And I was about to walk straight into the middle of it. The morning I went to see my newly bought land, I expected a quiet drive, dirt roads, maybe a few cows grazing nearby. But the closer I got, the more everything felt off. My GPS kept saying, "You have arrived at your destination." But instead of seeing open land, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Paved streets. Streetlights. Fresh sidewalks. Landscaping. And a giant stone entrance sign that read, Oak Ridge Meadows, HOA Community. At first, I honestly thought I took a wrong turn. I pulled over, checked the map again, zoomed in, and zoomed in more. But every time the blue dot centered, it sat right inside the gated neighborhood. Then it clicked. These weren't nearby houses. This wasn't a neighboring subdivision. This wasn't someone else's property. These were houses built directly on my land. Every driveway. Every mailbox. Every front porch. Sitting on the very property I had just purchased. And as I slowly drove through, the residents stared at me like I didn't belong there, like I was the intruder. One woman whispered to her husband on their porch. Kids stopped riding their bikes. A man mowing his lawn shut off his machine and glared. Every face said the same thing. "You're not supposed to be here." I tried to stay calm, but my heart was pounding. Just as I reached the center of my land, where the vacant field should have been, something even stranger happened. A woman in a bright blue blazer and sunglasses stormed out of the HOA clubhouse with 2 large men behind her wearing HOA security badges. And she didn't just walk toward me. She marched like a sheriff ready to arrest someone. I didn't know it yet, but this was Karen, the self-proclaimed ruler of a land she didn't own and had never owned. And she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. Karen didn't stop walking until she was right in front of my truck, hand raised like she was signaling traffic. "Hey! Pull over!" "Now," she barked. The two HOA security guys flanked her like they were Secret Service agents. Both wore black polos with cheap embroidered badges, one even had sunglasses on indoors level confidence. I rolled down my window, calm but confused. "Yes? Can I help you?" Karen scoffed loudly. "You can explain why you think you can just drive around private HOA property like you own the place." Her voice echoed, drawing attention from every porch within sight. I stepped out of the truck slowly. "Ma'am, I'm here because—" "No," she snapped. "You do not get to talk first. This entire area is restricted to residents and approved guests. Where are your visitor stickers?" "Huh?" I blinked. "Visitor stickers?" She crossed her arms. "Don't play dumb. This is a gated HOA. We keep things orderly here. Outsiders can't just come waltzing in. Give me your ID." One of the guards stepped forward as if he were about to pat me down. I held up my hand. "Relax. I'm not trespassing. I'm actually here because—" Karen cut me off again. "You are trespassing. You're violating multiple HOA articles. You can't just drive onto our streets. You can't park here. You can't wander around. You can't take photos. You can't." I finally took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "Listen. I'm not here to argue. I'm here because I own this land." Silence. Karen blinked, then burst into laughter so loud it echoed through the neighborhood. "You own what?" she said between laughs. "This land," I repeated, pulling the deed from the folder I brought. "All 30 acres of it. The property lines match." She slapped the paper out of my hand before I could even finish. "Get that fake garbage out of here. This community has existed for 12 years. Do you really think the HOA board wouldn't know who owns the land it's on?" I stared at her. "Ma'am, the county records say." "No," she snapped again, pointing aggressively. "You don't tell me what the county says. I run this HOA. And you're leaving. Right now." The guard stepped closer. Residents gathered on sidewalks. Phones came out, recording. Everyone watching the intruder get lectured by their queen. Karen took one threatening step forward. "If you don't get back in your truck and leave," she hissed, "we will have you arrested." I stared at her, fully calm. "You have no idea who you're threatening." She smirked. "Oh, trust me, you have no idea what's going to happen next." Little did she know, that sentence applied far more to her than to me. Karen snapped her fingers at the two guards. "Bring him to the clubhouse. Now." One guard grabbed my arm. The other tried to take my phone as if I was holding classified documents. I yanked my arm back. "Don't touch me." Karen pointed sharply. "He's hostile. Remove him from the streets before he scares the residents." I looked around, kids on bikes, old couples on porches, people jogging. Everyone watching me like I was causing trouble. All because Karen said so. I walked toward the clubhouse on my own just to avoid turning this into a full-on circus, but the two guards marched on each side of me like I was some kind of criminal they just caught shoplifting. The clubhouse door slammed behind us. Inside, a meeting was already happening, a long table, 7 board members, folders, coffee cups, and an American flag in the corner. Karen strutted in like royalty. "Board," she announced dramatically. "We have a situation." The board members looked confused. Karen pointed straight at me. "This man is trespassing, harassing residents, and showing fake documents claiming he owns our land." A few gasps. One old man adjusted his glasses like this was the most scandalous event of his week. I stepped forward. "That's not true. I have the deed. The county records show." Karen slammed her palm on the table. You do not interrupt the board. One board member, a man with suspenders and a shaking voice, asked. Sir, what exactly is your claim? I placed my folder on the table, opened it, and slid the official stamped deed toward them. This, I said, is proof I am the legal owner of every square foot of the land this HOA is built on. Whispers spread around the room. One board member even leaned closer to read the stamp. Karen snatched the document from his hand. This is fake, she yelled. We have our own map. She grabbed a laminated sheet and slapped it on the table. The entire room turned to look. It was a cartoonish, faded map, with hand-drawn borders, and in giant letters, HOA territory scribbled across it. No county stamp. No parcel numbers. Not even a real survey. I raised an eyebrow. This is your proof of ownership? Karen nodded like she had just presented the Declaration of Independence. The room went dead silent. Finally, one board member whispered, Karen, this doesn't look legally recognized. Karen's eyes widened with fury. Are you accusing me of not knowing my own community? I spoke calmly. I'm not here to fight. I'm here because I legally bought this land, and I'm trying to understand why there's an entire HOA built on it. The head board member took a deep breath. Sir, we'll need to verify all this. Karen exploded. No. We don't need anything. This man is lying. He's trying to scam us. And I demand we remove him from HOA grounds immediately. She stormed toward me, pointing at the door. Get out. I folded my documents quietly. Don't worry, I said. I'm leaving. But the next place I'm going is the county office. Karen smirked, thinking that meant she won. But she had no idea. The county was about to expose every lie she ever told. And every illegal thing hidden under her precious HOA. The next morning, I drove straight to the county assessor's office. No dramatics, no Karen, no HOA security. Just me, my folder, and a burning need for answers. I met with the county official, a serious woman with glasses sliding down her nose. I need the records for Oak Ridge Meadows, I said, sliding my deed across the counter. She picked it up, scanned it carefully, then looked at me like I'd just handed her a winning lottery ticket. Sir, she said slowly, this deed is completely valid. And according to our records, you own all the land under that entire HOA. I blinked. Every house, every street, every fence. She nodded. Yes. Every parcel. The HOA never had legal ownership. The developer who built it never transferred the property to anyone. You are the sole legal owner. I felt the weight of it sink in. For 12 years, the HOA and every homeowner had been living on land they didn't own. Every payment, every HOA fee, every rule they followed, essentially meaningless. She leaned in and whispered, legally, you can do whatever you want with your property. You could ask them to buy it, vacate, or negotiate a lease. I sat back in my chair. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was a bomb waiting to go off. I asked, what about the HOA board? What happens if they resist? The county official shrugged. That's their problem. You have the law on your side. And trust me, you're going to shock a lot of people when you enforce it. I left the office with a clear plan forming in my mind. Karen thought she could intimidate me. The HOA thought I was just some guy who stumbled into a neighborhood by mistake. They had no idea the storm that was coming. And I couldn't wait to deliver it. By the next day, my attorney had drafted official notices that would shake the entire HOA to its core. I wasn't here to ruin anyone's life. But the law was crystal clear. I owned the land. And everyone living on it had two options: pay, negotiate, or leave. The letters went out to the HOA board, stating the legal truth and demanding acknowledgement of ownership. To each homeowner, offering options: buy the land under their homes at fair market value, Sign a long-term lease with me. Vacate the property within 60 days. Karen was the first to get the notice. I watched her face as she read the words. Her eyes widened. Her hands trembled. She screamed so loud the neighbors could hear it through their windows. This is impossible, she yelled. He can't own this. It's our HOA. I run this place. I let her scream. I didn't need to respond. The law spoke louder than any word she could yell. That afternoon, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Board members argued among themselves, panic spreading like wildfire. Some residents cried. Others stormed out, confused and angry. Phones came out. Calls to lawyers were made. And every single one of them realized, slowly but surely, that their whole neighborhood was built illegally on my land. Karen tried to rally support, saying, "He's a scammer. He's trying to take our homes. We'll fight him in court." But the truth couldn't be twisted. The county records were clear, the deed was official, and my attorney was ready for battle. That's when the real game began. A legal storm was brewing, one that Karen couldn't control. And soon, the HOA, the residents, and even the shady developer behind it all would realize they were on my land, and I wasn't going anywhere. Karen wasn't going down quietly. The very next morning, she called an emergency HOA meeting and tried to rally the residents. She paced back and forth like a caged lion, pointing fingers at anyone who dared look confused. "They're trying to steal our community," she yelled. "This man has no authority. He's a fraud." But the faces around her were no longer loyal. Board members whispered nervously. Some homeowners exchanged glances. And a few actually started reading the letters and county documents in their hands. Karen's confidence began to crack. She tried to contact the police, demanding I be arrested on the spot. But when the officers arrived, they asked to see the deed. The moment they verified it, Karen went pale. The same rage that had fueled her for years now turned to panic. "I don't care what your county says. This is our neighborhood. You can't just..." Her words trailed off as the officer calmly warned her. "Ma'am, threatening the property owner can have legal consequences." The guard standing beside her tried to step forward, but they were quickly held back. Every phone in the room was recording now. Every gesture, every scream, all evidence piling up. Then came the breaking point. Karen, in a blind rage, grabbed a boundary marker that I had placed the day before. She hurled it across the clubhouse floor, shattering a lamp and sending papers flying. One of my attorney's assistants quietly started filming. Another called the local sheriff to report vandalism. Karen's meltdown had officially become evidence of criminal intent. By the end of the day, homeowners were questioning her leadership, murmuring about the truth they had ignored for so long. The HOA board, once obedient, now realized they were caught in a web of lies and illegal construction. Karen was furious, humiliated, and powerless. She had built her entire authority on land that wasn't hers, and now the law, the residents, and I were about to take it all away. The storm I promised was no longer coming, it had arrived. Karen had spent years convincing everyone that she was the queen of Oak Ridge Meadows. But now, the truth was hitting like a tidal wave. Homeowners started reading the official notices and county documents for themselves. Eyes widened. Hands shook. Some whispered to neighbors, "Wait, we've been paying HOA fees on land we don't even own?" A quiet rebellion began to stir. Families who once blindly followed Karen's rules now approached me cautiously. They asked questions like, "So, you actually own the land? Does that mean our HOA fees were wasted? What can we do to stay here legally?" I explained the options clearly. Purchase the land beneath your home at fair market value. Sign a long-term lease agreement with me. Vacate if you choose not to participate legally. One by one, homeowners began to realize that Karen had misled them. Every story she told about HOA ownership or community rights was falling apart. The tension in the neighborhood shifted. Board members began quietly resigning. Some residents approached me directly to negotiate. The HOA meetings were now angry, chaotic, and split, with Karen losing control fast. Karen tried to rally them, screaming, "Don't listen to him. He's a fraud." But her words fell flat. The homeowners had seen the proof, the evidence, the law. Her kingdom of obedience was crumbling. And for the first time, she realized that power built on lies is fragile. By the end of the week, several families had already signed agreements with me. Others were preparing to purchase their land legally. Karen's grip on Oak Ridge Meadows was slipping, and she knew it. The community I had walked into as a stranger was now turning toward justice. And the best part? Karen had no idea that her empire was already lost. With Karen losing control, it was time to turn attention to the person who had built this entire mess, the shady developer who illegally constructed Oak Ridge Meadows. I hired my attorney to dig deep into county records. Every permit, every approval, every signature was missing or falsified. The developer had cut corners, bribed a few minor officials, and built homes on land he didn't own, then sold them to unsuspecting residents. When the evidence was compiled, the county opened an official fraud investigation. Fake permits, misleading property maps, illegally collected HOA fees, tax evasion. Every violation pointed directly back to him. Karen had spent so much energy fighting me, she didn't notice the walls closing in around her boss, the developer. Suddenly, homeowners realized the truth. Karen had been protecting a criminal enterprise all along. The legal team served the developer with lawsuits demanding compensation for all damages caused by the illegal construction, full accountability for falsified documents, payment to me for the land they had illegally sold homes on. The developer panicked. Calls to Karen were frantic. Emails to homeowners tried to calm fears. But the law doesn't negotiate with excuses. Within weeks, the court ordered the developer to pay massive compensation, covering both my legal fees and the market value of the land occupied. HOA residents were given the option to buy their homes legally or sign lease agreements, and most chose to secure their homes properly, finally free from Karen's manipulations. Karen, meanwhile, was left isolated. The developer was facing criminal charges. Board members had resigned. Residents no longer trusted her judgment. Her empire had collapsed from every angle, and the storm I promised had swept through completely. Months of tension, legal battles, and revelations came to a head in the courtroom. Karen sat there, flustered, red-faced, and defeated. The HOA board was reduced to empty chairs, their power gone. And the developer? Sweating under the weight of fraud and criminal charges. The judge read the verdict slowly, each word striking like a hammer. The land legally belongs to Malik SHB. All structures built without proper ownership are subject to legal purchase, lease, or removal. The developer is liable for damages and fraud. Karen is personally responsible for harassment, vandalism, and obstruction of lawful property rights. Gasps filled the courtroom. Karen looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Outside, the residents were stunned. Some were relieved, realizing they could now legally secure their homes. Others were angry, at Karen, the developer, and themselves for blindly following authority. I walked out of the courtroom feeling a mix of justice and triumph. Every street, every fence, every mailbox, all legally mine now. Karen's reign was over. The HOA she tried to control was finally free from lies. And the developer who built on deception? Facing justice he couldn't escape. The best part? I didn't just take back my land, I exposed arrogance, entitlement, and corruption. And in the end, truth prevailed. If you ever underestimate the power of knowing your rights, this story is proof that arrogance can be crushed by law and persistence. Karen built her kingdom on land she didn't own, and lost everything. Never forget, truth always finds a way to rise above power.